Okay, we're doing the conservation of matter lab, and we're going to do all three trials. So we need to measure the mass of an empty flask. So this is the flask I'm going to use. This one is a 125 milliliter Erlenmeyer flask. So I need to make sure that I'm using grams. My scale says that it is in grams. It's kind of hard to see that. You can see that. So it's 0, so then I'm going to put my Erlenmeyer flask on the scale. And the mass of this Erlenmeyer flask, this empty flask, is 86.3 grams. And then I need to measure the mass of the balloon. So right now the mass is 3.1 grams. Okay, and then I need to measure the mass of the graduated cylinder. So here is the graduated cylinder. Again, that's graduated because it looks like it has a graduation cap at the bottom. So I'm going to put that on my scale. And this says 73.4 grams. And then I'm going to, first, before I go to the next part, I'm going to just copy this across. The flask should weigh the same amount every time because we're using the same flask. If I switched flasks, I would have to remeasure because they're not all identical. The balloon, I'm going to stick with the same balloon, so it should also have the same mass every time I use it. And the graduated cylinder should also be the same mass every time I use that. So as long as I don't trade out my graduated cylinder, I should be good, which I'm not planning to do. Okay, the next thing that I need to do is I'm following my instructions. I need to measure 15 milliliters of vinegar. So I'm going to, on here, fill up my graduated cylinder with 15 milliliters of vinegar. I just have household vinegar. I have a big bottle of vinegar that I'm going to use to fill up my graduated cylinder to 15. Got a little too much. Let me pour some back out. Okay, so I'm pretty close to 15 milliliters. I'm going to put that on my scale. And then I need to record the mass. So this mass is 88.1. And I have to do this for trial 2 and trial 3. So this is only for trial 1. And then I need to figure out the mass of the vinegar. So to find the mass of the vinegar, I need to subtract the graduated cylinder plus the vinegar and take off the graduated cylinder. So I'm going to use my calculator. I could do this calculation after the lab also. So I'm going to do 88. It's too hard to see. Let's see, maybe it's just the glare. There we go. 88.1, so graduated cylinder plus vinegar minus the graduated cylinder. Oops. 88.1 minus 73.4. That gives us the mass of the vinegar that we're using, 14.7 grams. So these are all grams. Okay, the next thing that I need to do is I'm going to set my baking soda off to this, or my vinegar off to the side, and now I need to measure the baking soda. So the next thing that my instructions say is measure 4 grams of baking soda into the weigh boat. And then I'm going to put my 4 milliliters of 4 grams of baking soda into my balloon. So this is just household baking soda. It's from the store. So I need to zero my scale. So that the scale says 0. This is my weigh boat. I'm going to measure out 4 grams. So I'm going to take my scooper and figure out what is 4 grams. So that's 2. Doesn't have to be super exact, but we want to be pretty close. A little bit more. Okay, 4 grams. So then I'm going to try really carefully to put my baking soda in this balloon. It's a little bit tricky, but we're going to try to do our best. Okay, baking soda is in the balloon now. Okay, the next thing it tells me to do is, so I'm going to 0 this. I need to measure the balloon and the baking soda. So just to double check, make sure our mass is correct. So this says 7.2 grams. So the mass of the baking soda and the balloon is 7.2 grams. And then this says take number 6, so that's the baking soda and the balloon, and subtract number 2, which is the balloon. And so if I do that, number 6, 7.2 minus the balloon, which is 3.1, that gives us 4.1 grams. And that's about what we measured, so that's good. Okay, so then we need to put our system together. So our system is the balloon and the baking soda and the Erlenmeyer flask and the vinegar. So I'm going to go ahead and pour the vinegar into my flask. So that's about our 14 grams, almost 15 grams. And then I'm going to very carefully put this over in case this reaction generates gas. We know that this doesn't generate bubbles. And I'm going to put the whole system on the scale. So right now our whole system before reaction, number 8, is 107.9 grams. Everything together. And then I'm going to react this reaction. So we'll go ahead and pour in our baking soda. And our balloon is filling. You can see the reaction happening. Our balloon is getting more full. We're just going to wait for a minute till our reaction stops. Okay, so now that our reaction is basically done, I'm going to put it back on the scale. We're going to measure the mass. The balloon is in the way. Balloon out of the way. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and write down the whole system after the reaction weighs 107.7 grams. Okay, and then this last part, we just have to decide how much baking soda is left. So look in here, we're not measuring the mass, we're just supposed to look at it. So with our eyes, how much baking soda do you think is left? Is there a lot? Is there some? This one looks kind of medium. There's like a medium amount of baking soda left. So I'm going to put a medium amount. There's definitely some, but not a lot, but also not none. Okay, so then we just have to do that again for trial 2 and trial 3. So I need to, again, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the balloon off. We have our measurements for these. Our graduated cylinder. So I'm going to go ahead and we need to figure out how much vinegar we're going to use. We're going to use about 15 milliliters. Okay, so this time I'm going to have you write down the numbers. So this one, this is for the vinegar. So go ahead and write down how much. So you will put this in this box, the graduated cylinder plus the vinegar. So go ahead and write that down. There we go. Now I can see it a little bit better. And then you need to do this calculation. So figure out how much vinegar is there. So do box number 4 minus box number 3. And then we need to measure out baking soda again. So 0 the scale, scoop in about 4 grams of baking soda. Okay, and then again, I'm going to pour that into my balloon. Put my baking soda in my balloon. Okay, and then I need to zero this, and I put my balloon and my baking soda on this scale, and you're going to write down the amount. So how much does the balloon and the baking soda weigh? And then you need to do this calculation. Take number 6 and subtract number 2. So number 6, here's number 6. Subtract number 2 and then write that in this. How much baking soda did we use? And then I need to clean out my reaction from last time. Rinse it out really quick. It's okay if it's a little bit wet. I need to make sure my balloon doesn't get wet though. Okay, then I'm going to put my vinegar in my Erlenmeyer flask. And I'm going to take my balloon and put the balloon over the top of that. So before the reaction, I'm going to put my balloon and system on the scale. So go ahead, what is the whole system before the reaction? And then we can just even leave it on the scale. Let's see, what is the whole system after the reaction? The balloon is filling up. The reaction is happening. Okay, the reaction has slowed down a lot. So go ahead and write down how much the system weighs after the reaction. How much does the system weigh after? And then I also want you to write down how much baking soda is left. Is there a lot? Is there not much? So let's look at it. So look at that. That white powder in there is the baking soda. So you get to decide. Tell me how much baking soda you think is left. Okay, and then we're going to do this for trial 3. So we're going to do the same thing. So I'm going to pull off the balloon. I'm going to rinse out my Erlenmeyer flask. Just dry the outside of it off. Okay, so then I need my graduated cylinder with vinegar. Again, we're using 15 milliliters of vinegar. Oops, I got a little too much there. Okay, that's better. Pretty close to 15 milliliters. So I need to write down in trial 3, you need to write down how much says the graduated cylinder and the vinegar weighs. That goes here. How much does this weigh? And then take number 4 and subtract off the graduated cylinder to get the amount of vinegar. So that goes there. And then we're going to take the vinegar, and we'll just do that right now. I'm going to pour it in the Erlenmeyer flask for the next part. And then I'm going to measure out 4 grams of baking soda. I need to zero my weigh boat. Oops, that's too much. Let's get rid of some of that. Still too much. Oops, now we're below. Let's put a little bit more in. Okay, so we're going to use 4 grams of baking soda. I'm going to put it in the balloon. So I'm going to put it in the balloon. Okay, so it's all in the balloon. And then I need to weigh the balloon and the baking soda. So go ahead. Oops, I have it zeroed. There we go. Go ahead and here write the amount that the balloon and the baking soda weigh together. And then here you need to do a calculation. So go ahead and take this one, number 6, and subtract number 2. And that will give you the amount of baking soda that we're using. Okay, and then we need to figure out the whole system before the reaction. So again, I'm going to put the balloon, before we start the reaction, I'm going to put the balloon over the Erlenmeyer flask. And then I'm going to put the whole system on the scale. Oops, was that zeroed? Yeah. So go ahead and we have the whole system on the scale now. Write down how much the whole system weighs. And then we'll go ahead and add our baking soda. Okay, and then go ahead and here write how much the whole system after the reaction weighs. Reaction is mostly done. And again, the last part you have to do is you need to tell me for the table how much baking soda is left. So there's still some white powdery stuff in there. So tell me, how much do you think is left? Little. All right, and then after you have the table done, go ahead and answer the post-lab questions and turn this in on Canvas.